And there's a very interesting fact. When it comes to human food, human can speak for themselves. What I'm gonna eat today, and what I'm gonna be enjoy my dinner with. But for pets, they can't speak for themselves. They they need have a responsible owners to help them to make the optimal choice when it comes to their diet. And we truly believe you are what you eat and apply to human, animals, uh, both aspects.
Hey, Zach, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, it's an honor and excited to be here.
Zach, you're a student entrepreneur, and I love talking to student entrepreneurs. You're currently in the Ted Rogers School of Business.
That's correct.
So tell me about why a undergrad in a school of business decides I'm just going to create my own business while I'm in school. What took you there?
Yeah, so I think it's all started since I was 15. I start my first entrepreneur journey since I was 15 years old. I started to always have an entrepreneur mindset. And at the age of 15, I always like to flip things and doing always in the pet industries. And also I was in 15, I have my first own pet, a German Shepherd named New. It's become a soulmate, and because my child for the family and also for me. And since that, from the universities when I was 3 years, I started to pursue my dreams, which is start my own D2C brand, which in the pet food categories. Sorry, Ravi, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. So you started with Charmy Pet. You produce your own food, pet food.
Yeah. So what's Charmy Pet do? Obviously, we are a pet food company. We produce our own foods, but it's more advanced in the industry because we do personalized pet food based on the pet's conditions, activity levels, genetics, health conditions, allergy tolerance. Based on those data sets, we create truly customized, tailored pet foods for each individual pet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy to hear about how many small pet food companies there are. It seems like everyone is kind of going more bespoke. Like, I have a lot of friends who are pet owners, and they all get their stuff from like more local produced, more tailored to their specific pet, their specific breed of that pet. Like, dog owners and cat owners and pet owners have always been like super into their animals, and it's amazing to see how much people will spend to take care of them, and how much research and how much they'll go into in trying new things around pets. So can you walk us through about how to launch a pet food company?
Well, from beginnings, you always have to do your own due diligence, or own research, market research, see what's out there, and what you want to create is definitely going to be a differentiation from any others companies, or increased user experience, better experience, or much better experience. From the beginning, since I always in the pet industries, have talking over thousands of pet owners, like your friends. They always really cautious what's going to their pet food and how much a diet could lead to the health benefit in the lifespan of the pets. And first of all, we did a ton of the research. We work with nutritionists in different universities to find out what's really good formulas for our pets when create a pet food. And second, I form a team with marketing experts, with branding experts, also myself as a business development persons. And also we have our CTO from Google Canada's who actually do our certificate algorithms want to predict the suitable tailorized pet food for our pets. And from that, we have to find out our distribution channels. Who should we to sell and who is our ICP and who's going to be first adopters for this new concept of the pet food.
Sorry, so I think I might have missed this. Do you say you produced your own cat food, or are you white labeling and pulling from existing providers, almost like an e-commerce company?
That's actually a really good question. We are actually not a white labeling, which means in the back of package it said distribute by, which means those companies are white labeling, use other brand formula to just copy it and take over it. We are actually have our own formulas. We're working with the manufacturer in Canada, Waterloo, to produce our own formula of the pet food.
Okay, so you have your own version, your own type of food specifically to yours. Cool. Like, so I just want to get into the nitty gritty of that because it's like food science is a really interesting topic because you would think that like all the possible combination would exist, like, you know, of how you can put together different materials and create things like, but like it's such a, it seems to be there's a wide array of flavors even for us. We've had a lot of food tech companies on the show because we work with what's it, not Venture Labs, Y Space out of York University. They deal with a lot of like these kind of companies. This is meant for more in the food for the human side, but we've seen a lot of pet food come out of there too, where people are just creating these things. And for me, it kind of like blows my mind because when you think about starting a company or starting a thing, you don't think about, you know, creating a food substance that's new, unique, right? You would think it's like, you know, you're not recombining the wheel in any kind of new way, right? So could you talk a little more about like how different your material is, like why is there a market need for this, and how you found it?
That's actually a quite interesting question. The differentiation of the pet food, we need to go back of the history, evolution of the pet food. 1980s, we have our very own pet food to be invented. Conventional pet food, those big companies, P&G's, Mars, they have their own brand pet foods. Conventional pet food put together, which you can grab from any retail stores, big chains stores. And we have 2.0, which invents 10 years or 20 years ago, more toward to the natural ingredient, holistic way to approach, use food treatment for our pets. But still, those pet food are not customized, tailored to each pet. Each pet's nurture or nature, they have a different conditions. And now we are more toward our goals here. To 3.0 is tailored pet food for our pets. And there's a very interesting fact. When it comes to human food, human can speak for themselves. What I'm gonna eat today, and what I'm gonna be enjoy my dinner with. But for pets, they can't speak for themselves. They need to have a responsible owners to help them to make the optimal choice when it comes to their diet. And we truly believe you are what you eat, and apply to human, animals, both aspects.
Okay, so yeah, completely agree with you. Like people actually outspend food budgets on their animals than themselves. I was listening to a tech. Beta Kit just had like a recent podcast on this, right? Where they brought on on another pet food kind of company, but they produce a pet food meat with insect protein, right? Which is supposed to be like 22 times more efficient, because turns out there are a lot of pet owners that'll, buy premium proteins for especially their big canine animals. And, that really stuck out to me. It's like, we don't think about the cost that our pets have on the environment. And that is the focus of the podcast, right? Like we think about ourselves, like, we have a carnivorous diet, we consume a lot, and we have a supply chain that's global. We're flying tomatoes in from different parts of different countries. And it goes to show that, like, there's wider implications to how the globe kind of functions. Our animals are involved in this conversation too. Have you thought or looked into anything about the global impact of a food chain, the supply chain for animals, for pet food?
Yeah, my background actually come to sourcing supply chains, and what's good about pet foods and what's good about they doing for the global environment. Pet food actually in sourcing those foods are not suitable for human consumptions, which we don't leave any waste from the human supply chain aspect. We recycle those. In North America, we don't eat beef spleen. That's the nature of our taste behavior. Maybe in other parts of country, in part of world, we do eat some of exotic animal parts like spleen, liver, lung. But in North Americans, if pet food do not use those parts, they go straight to the garbage bin, which has been waste. And as you know, those are nutritious for our pets and highly tasty for our pets. In the wolf, pets go to the animal stomach immediately because it's most delicious parts for carnivores to consume. So back to the supply chain. Charmy are using a trackable system to know where's each of the animal coming from, which plant is it, which slaughterhouse is it. So the traceabilities are very important for us, because all the recall issue in the pet food, there's a lack of transparency between where they slaughter the animals and how they handle the food safeties, and after they come to produce the products. So we feel we need to create this 100% transparency between the brand and consumer, make it less like transaction sales, make it like a relation-based sales, a community base, which allows our we have our conversation daily. We have 50 conversation with different customer every day. They talk. They want to work with us. They want to know where the product coming from. They want to know how they can improve their dog health or cat feline health, and to extend their lifespan, less chronic condition to bother them.
So this community, does it work as a membership model? So they pay a membership to you in return for the nutrients that they need?
So yes, that's our subscription models. But when it comes to communities, you don't need to be a paid customers. You can be in our community through different social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We also have some Chinese Canadian platform we do use to connect, and you don't have to be a paid customers. We still working with you to figure out the best diet, the best supplements, or best meal topper for your pets. And we believe once those relationship has been established, you will become Charmy loyal fans in the later on.
I love that. And one of the things I appreciate about the community aspect of any business is the loyalty side, right? When you build like this organically built business that you not just scale focus, right? Especially right off the bat, you get this loyal base that'll stick with you if you go through like any rapid changes or any major pivots, right? Because they probably had a voice into those discussions, right? So let's talk about that community side of Charmy Pet, like. How do you utilize socials? How do you utilize communication? Is it one way? Are you providing educational content, or is it trying to do two ways, where you're trying to get them to participate with how they view the brand and create content around it?
Yeah, as a community buildings here is there's no really one way in here. Otherwise, you just hear yourself going over and over. There's always two way. We want to talk to our consumer desperately every day. We want to improve ourselves, our product. We are not perfect. We are a startup. So in let's say on social medias, we are always DM our customers, DM our members, see what can we be improved and what's they're interesting about the next things we coming out. And we do educational content like crazy. We try to educate every responsible consumer about customized pet food. And as myself, as my other co-founders, at the face of the companies, at the brand of the companies, we try to commute to not only brands by ourselves. We're using ourselves as a brand to communicate with those audience.
Yeah. So how do you do that at scale, though? One of the coolest platforms I've seen so far is a Community, the text-based app, right? Where community members can interface with you directly, right? So either you as a business can have multiple people utilizing one phone number and have a text-based communication with people, right? Across countries and stuff like that. And I really love that kind of model because text-based especially is so intimate. Right. Do you focus more on like social media as like any specific ones or cross-platform? Are you trying to build a funnel system going from social media into a more of a focus-based app like a community tool like Community?
How we want to do this at scale levels is we are very data-driven companies. We want to know how much our members, after hearing from us, actually convert to customers, and turn out we are way above the industry average rates because those customers are not from the ad. Those customers not from the cold ad they see from the online. They know by their friends. They know by their they seems to be know me. And I was meet few of them in person recently. We're doing offline event. They really know us because we record daily journey of this entrepreneurship, and believe or not, all those customers come from organically. Almost 15% actually convert to our customers. Wow. Which industry is 2 to 3 from the ad.
Yeah, I mean that is quite that's really interesting. Thank you for the numbers because absolutely, there's a great debate on LinkedIn about like sales versus marketing, right? So marketing people versus salespeople on thinking like who's more important. And I recently asked like a VP of marketing at a large enterprise about what would you choose, sales versus marketing at a small company, at an early company, and they always say in an early company, sales is the most important because that is more intimate, right? You're directly talking to a customer. You're not just bringing them in through through a cold funnel. You're actually having a conversation, and I love this model you're talking about because you can now learn from your base. So let's talk about what you've learned, right? Having these conversations, acting in this community. What does the community care about mostly?
community care about the honestly. They appreciate the honestly. What happens to you as a brand owners, if you don't have the product is out of stock, you're gonna tell them really earlier, and they appreciate about documentary about the journey. People love to see those documentaries about how you started, hear about your stories, why you started, and also we as a business owners, we often get a lot of questions related to pet health. So we have to working with them really closely. Each member have a different, almost every member have different profile for their doggy data. We have to working with this doggy data. Let's say 6 months old, they're at puppyhood, but when they turn to adults, 2 or 3, they have different health needs. They might to improve their dental health, and that adult dog turn to a senior levels, they might have multiple health conditions they need to focus on or prevent. Hip, fur, dentals, you name it. So different life journey of the pets, they have a very different needs. So we need to working with our customer very closely. And as I said, we have a 50 maybe chat with our customers daily. So we just want to chat with them, learning better, more new things we learn from them, more customized, tailored experience we can make for their pets.
Man, Zach, I really love this because you're talking more of as a pet health company rather than a pet food company, right? You're looking at as a long-term relationship with the consumers of this and looking at the personalization of that, which is huge. There's a lot of implications to that because I've talked to, my sister has a dog, and I've talked a lot of pet owners. During the pandemic, it's been really rough to get a veterinarian, to talk to somebody about their pets, to understand that they have a condition or they still get looked after. Who do you go for advice? It was hard enough for humans to get advice from healthcare practitioners, right? It was another thing for pets, and for people who look at pets as part of their family. This is instrumental. So, can you talk about the type of personalizations you can do? Like, do you focus on specific animals? Is this cats, dogs, birds, or specific breeds within, or large dogs, small dogs? What do you any particular focus you have?
At this moment, we only do canine and feline.
Okay.
But never say never. We might enter into a different space, but that's the largest space out there right now.
Yeah. Cool. So, is there any major difference in canines? Like large dogs and small dogs, very different kind of diets, right? Like and needs. And I know one of my friends, one of my best friends, he owns like a big Doberman, and the amount of meat, the amount of money goes into feeding this guy for each week, it's crazy. It's like probably double of a normal person. And they go through like heavy carnivore diet. Has that been an issue for you?
Your friend is probably feeding their dog raw food diet, commercial raw or prepared by themselves. Those are very good quality food can feed our canines. And from the cost wise, especially we are in, always pet food is recession proof. Period. Is people will spend more money on their pets rather than themselves. They are emotional support, and they can get through very difficult time with you. They don't care you are rich or poor. They will always stick with you like ever. So from the cost wise, what we try to do, we try to make the food can be affordable for everyone, and transport of the raw diet, the frozen pet food, are quite expensive. You're probably gonna spend 30% cost on the storage, transportation fees. We try to make a shelf-stable product. Meanwhile, have a higher nutritionist, same as the raw diets, which is freeze-dried, similar to this technique in the raw.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you do have a different kind of way of dealing with large canines, and okay. So let's what does that look like? Like, do you differentiate between large dogs, small dogs? Do you have different type of pallets for them? How do you supply chain all this, right?
From the beginnings, we was talk to a lot of industry peoples. People tell me it's not possible. It's gonna be too expensive on supply chains, and they have been down this 30 years in the industry itself. They are VP of some big pet food companies, and they said it's maybe it's a hobby. It's not a real scalable business. In one days, when we learn about the base formulas, we know we can do some things without too costly to customize that diet at very end stage, and by adding supplements at very end stage for the dog. And also you mentioned what's different between the large or small dog. Large dog, they have a different chewing behavior than small dog. You can't feed a small dog a big chunk of meat. They might choke themselves. So you need to appreciate a portion amount, right portion amount food for their small dog. But for large canines, their jaw and their teeth designed to consume this large piece of meat or large piece of food. So and also the size, the weight of the food. There's many unique factors when we need to consider different breeds, different age, and health condition need to include as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, there's a need for it, right? But like you said, it's business. It's expensive for a business to operate. So taking that on, I can see how positioning as almost like a pet health thing, as you're kind of concerned about this and working with pet owners who are concerned about health, can make up for the cost difference, right? That be required to produce things at this quality. And being able to do that at scale. So, let's talk a little more about, you have this, you have Charmy Pet running. How does the DMZ get involved for you? How'd you end up there?
Yeah, we joined DMZs at January 2021. We was joined as a bootcamp company, and we graduate from the boot camp and we apply for the incubators. And 1 week after, we have a good news, we accept for the incubator programs. The newest incubators, the programs, it seems to be a bit different. It's 18 months programs, and we will have vertical of the supports from the industries or from the EIR we're working with. And now, I think it's going pretty great.
Okay. It's just surprising because, Ryzen's DMZ, the digital media zone, they started off as a digital focused company, and now they've expanded and, work with in early stage companies in a variety of lands. But let's talk about the digital side of Charmy Pet, right? So, how do you gather support? How do you market? How do you compete in that kind of space? Are you creating content? You mentioned before you're doing like a daily kind of almost like a vlog of the company building. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah. For us, content creating is extremely important because it's closing the gap between the brand and the consumers. So if we can documentary or making fun of our journey to the consumers, we will do whatever it takes to do so. And the making content, we're making content through Instagrams a lot. And right now we are trying to tackle on the TikTok world a lot, doing different experiments to see which content are running more viral on TikTok. But right now it's still in the testing phase. And we are mainly focused on the Instagrams a lot. So we have communities through Facebook from the Instagrams. Instagram and Facebook are all connected. So content is always being a very important aspect for the business. It's marketing. For us, it's marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that the content forward approach, right? So kind of guide me through that, because a lot of companies don't utilize a good content strategy. There's a lot of CEOs who just rather work in the back end and run a very backward facing company with just like very minimal digital media presence, like the occasional blog post or social media post here and there as an update, but not really looking at the content centric strategy. So what does that strategy take to implement? Do you run like Scrum missions on what content's being created that week? Or do you just organically day by day say like, oh, we're going to create a post? Or is it like a monthly thing? Like how do you manage your campaign?
For us, we try to stay organized as possible. Sometimes we do have a new idea we want to post immediately, but majority that's not in the case. We try to plan almost a week ahead before, so we can have all the topic ready to run, and we filming before almost a week ago, and we put out throughout the weeks for our for our community members to see it.
Cool. So trying to have rapid kind of cycle between production and release.
Yeah, and because as you mentioned, a lot of companies, they do not utilize the content strategies, but they must utilize something other channels to make the company profitable. As we mentioned, I'm a student entrepreneur. Majority of our co-founders are students as well. And we are bootstrapping from $0 right now to 250K up this year's, and from nothing. And we don't have money to spend on PPC. We don't have money to spend on the ads. We don't even have money to waiting that cash flow to recoup back and reinvest into the ad. What we can do is, what we in control is, we can put out content organic out there to let the algorithm run itself to mean more pet persons or non-pet persons, or they want to get the pets.
Okay, so talking about the content side, right? Like, I've heard this, like, I follow Gary Vee a lot, and he has a scary number that he talks about. It's like if you're a content focused brand, you should be producing 15 pieces of content per platform. That's a lot, right? And he kind of talks about the idea that the algorithm is hungry for content, right? Because when you talk about content as a distribution engine, like, whether if you're on a platform, like whether it be LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, the algorithm is actually looking to find pieces of content that can connect people interested in it. It's already doing the work of personalizing the content, right? So as a content creation company, all you really have to focus on is creating great content. Do you look at it that way, or are you an active approach to finding people listen to that?
That's in the case, but you never know what the audience wants. So you need to keep experiment to find out that threshold. That's the piece. Actually, audience really like. We are always experienced. We have our own podcast, but it does not. People do not hear my voice on that. I talk about pet nutritional health. So we pivot. We change to something else, to more engagement. But as I said, yes, we try to put as much content aggressive as much we could, but 17 per days, that's not something maybe we can do. So we need to find something as a balance point between our time and also the value of the content.
Yeah, and one of the things is that we're competing against so much attention, right? Like there's so many things vying for our attention now, so many pieces of content, so many pieces of platforms. Attention seems to be one of the great commodities of the 21st century. So the fact that people consume your content, I think it's starting to mean more and more. You're absorbing part of the attention graph, the possible piece of attention you can get from active consumers. How do you break down your content? Are you looking for short form content, like quick and ingestible? Are you looking at information level, like you're educating people about like certain ideas around what you're doing? It's going to be fun and creative, or it's entertaining. Like how do you manage your content creation? Are you trying to do a mix of both? Like,
to be honest, I experienced all of them.
Okay.
A long form of content about educational, fun videos, funny video, fun fact about the pet nutritional health. What I found out the best is the short ones, the fun ones, and mixed with the good point with pet nutritional health. The long content strategy might not work for us at right now. So we are pivot to short video, like rare videos, like TikTok, those short form videos.
Yeah. So one of the things I would love to give justice to is the fact that we've talked about so many different realms of what you're to think about as being a founder. You have this marketing realm of how do you talk, how do you find people and bring attention to what you're doing and your brand. You have the customer service where if people are buying stuff, okay, how do you manage them, build a community, and make them into recurring customers? You have the logistics side of things. How do you fulfill orders? What exactly is a product? How are you fulfilling that? What are the needs? Then you have the R&D side, which is continuously learning how to be better at everything we're doing here, right? We have all these different realms. How do you personally deviate your time to what takes attention, where it takes your attention?
We are a small teams of 4. Each one have a different role and responsibilities of the company. My role is really take my attention is right now is the sales. We need to boost up our GMV, looking to raise, and R&D side, marketing side, customer success side. All those sides are key components for the companies, and what we try to do is to utilize our times by design a diagrams, a flow chart, to follow some of the protocol we set up, the rule we set up, the mission we believe, which is pets always first, than any other priorities in the companies, like customer pets or our pets is always will be served as the first priorities. If there's issues, we will deal that as a priorities, the main task we need to tackle on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I love the idea of you talking about a tech first company and maintaining this, because everything's being swallowed by tech and becoming techified, right? So what does the future look like for pet food? Like, what would the ideal future look like?
I already can imagine the future, but I believe majority of sim industry people, they won't believe this future. So what I believe in this future is every pet will have their own customized things, whether it's diet, treats, toy, shirts, or even for our humans, because our pets really couldn't really speak for themselves. And all of those assessments we did, they will vertically integrate with manufacturing side, and to personalize those, whether it's suppliers, food, anything, just made for that individual needs.
I love that. And, I love the vision because that's a very strong, compelling vision. I love the idea of you talking about, animals are, individuals who can't talk for themselves. So they need others to speak for them. And, the ability of especially an AI or a machine, like a tech-focused company coming in saying that we can fulfill that gap, help establish some intelligence in that gap. I think that's really interesting. And, Zach, you're on some very interesting ideas. I really appreciate your time and coming on the podcast and talking about them. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Great. Zach, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who tuned in to the episode. This has been really great. Zach, stick around for a few quick debrief. But other than that, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.